But thank you for joining us this evening. We are super excited to host this webinar. This is a topic that's been very near and dear to us for the last couple months. And the objective is to put together some key learnings through our experience that we'd like to share, as well as share the opportunity that we are working on. Really show that as a live case study, exhibiting investing in multifamily real estate coupled with senior assisted care. So our agenda tonight is pretty focused on this topic. We're going to have quick introductions on the speakers, and we'll get into what is a senior assisted care business. This is where I think we'll really learn and understand what market is it that we're essentially targeting. And then, a lot of us here maybe are real estate investors or are looking at opportunities in this sector. So we'd like to highlight some of the key elements that really opened our eyes in the last couple of months, which drew us towards this particular sector. And, this is where the rubber hits the road is the combination. So tonight's agenda is focused on the combination of real estate with the senior assisted care business. And what does that do to, overall returns? What does that do to community impact? And how is that viewed, by lenders? How is that viewed by other investors? And as well as some stakeholders that we'll talk about. And then finally, open invite to see how you could get involved in what we're working on. Based on the available time, we will open up the floor for Q&A. We would ask to reserve all questions towards the end. And I believe there are two ways to ask a question. Option one is just raise up your hand in the Zoom toolbar down, and we'll queue you up. And second option is to post your question in the chat, and we'll be collecting those as well. And then lastly, if we are unable to get to the questions and or some questions may require us to take the conversation offline, this is not the last time we're talking. Just book a call with us. We'll share the contact information and we'll continue the conversation there. So about us, the four of us here, myself, Faizan, Michael, and Christina, we are professionals by trade in our individual industries, in our individual markets, and we are real estate investors focused in multifamily and land development. So quick introduction about myself. I'm an active real estate investor based here in Ontario. And my focus is on small and large multifamily in Ontario and outside, as well as land development. Faizan, over to you.
My name is Faizan. I'm also an active real estate investor and Babar's partner in Canadian Homeowner Solutions. I've been an active investor for the last few years. Before that, I have a background in sales and marketing for basically my whole life. And Michael, go on.
Yeah, so I'm Michael Wochuk. I'm coming to you live from St. John, New Brunswick. That's the background you're seeing. My background is operations, economics. I did some time in China on the ground in sourcing, and I've been in industries from pulp and paper right up to real estate as we speak right now. Over to you, Christina.
Good evening, guys. My name is Christina Logojan, and then I have been a nurse for over 25 years now. I love my profession. I consider nursing to be a unique field that allows me to enjoy the reward of serving people while growing professionally and personally as well. In 2019, I have decided to enter the real estate world by investing in the residential space, doing bursts and duplex conversions. And then I moved gradually towards the multifamily space and the land development side. My real estate business main focus is to integrate the nursing skills that I have in the real estate business to make a positive impact on the community. Thank you. Moving forward to you, Babar, please.
Thanks very much. Before we get into the good stuff, obviously we want to highlight a disclaimer that the intent of this webinar is to share our experience and share our learnings. We are by no means giving professional advice. For that, you know who to go to your lawyers and accountants. So treat this as an educational webinar. So let's get into the actual topic of tonight. We want to kick it off by really level setting the definitions behind what is a senior assisted living and how does it differentiate with some of the other asset classes in this sector. So I'll let Christina explain the slide.
Yeah, so let's dive into the topic of tonight. I think for a better understanding of this type of business, because we would like to stay in the business side of the presentation, let's distinguish the three types of properties presented here on the slide. And so for that reason, first of all, I would like to know how many of you know the difference between a nursing home, retirement home, or a senior assisted living. And please just take a few seconds to drop in the chat, type in the chat, yes, no answer, and we're going to read your answer just to know a little bit the audience. So just take a few seconds and drop yes or no if somebody, how many of you know the difference between a nursing home, retirement home, and senior assisted living? Okay, so I have Tyra, yes. Anybody else? Yes, Tarshi, yeah, thank you for coming. Tarshi, she's an OT and a real estate investor as well. Denise, no, okay. Anybody else? Don't be shy. Yes, okay, no. Arlene, thank you for coming, Arlene. Okay, good. For Lara, yes, I was in BP. Okay, 20 years in industry, perfect. Good to have you here, Lara. So let's just maybe move forward with, to decorticate a little bit more the terms here and also the type of the properties we have in the slide here for a better understanding. So let's start with the nursing homes. So a long-term care home facility, also called a nursing home, is a place where seniors can live and receive help with their daily activities. And for those who are in the healthcare space, I think we are used to call that ADLs. Long-term care homes are distinguished from the other facilities because they provide 24-hour nursing and personal care. So it's around the clock, as you know, on shift works. For that reason, nursing homes accommodate people who have difficulty directing their own care. And we don't necessarily have a specific age for the entrance. The assessment is completed by a third party, which is called CCAC, mostly, I would say, in English provinces, or home care and community support services. And it's based on the needs of the patient. Usually, these type of homes receive subsidies from the government. And just for our general knowledge, in Canada, we find about 54% of nursing homes privately owned and 46% publicly owned. Now, that being said, let's just move for the retirement homes. And then a retirement home is also called, can be called a retirement residence or a senior home. By definition, a retirement home is a community of seniors living in the same place. The retirement homes accommodate individuals or seniors who wants to have an independent lifestyle. The age accepted is usually 55 and plus, and they focus on the independence. They do not receive government funding, and the residents pay the full cost of accommodation and for their care services that they decide to purchase. The they are retirement homes with care included, but I don't want to elaborate on the topic too much because it becomes too complex when understanding the business side of it. So let's just stay on the generic information. Now let's just move on the third picture, and then third not concept but term, like the senior assisted living home. And then I would like to say that a senior assisted living home is a hybrid between a nursing home and a retirement home. That being said, a senior assisted living provides a home-like environment with the care services included. You also can call a semi-independent living lifestyle. There is normally no minimum age requirement, but we can see in general 65 plus. However, most seniors will make the move between 75 and 84. The senior assisted living facilities could receive subsidies from the provincial government. And so for that reason, it can be a good type of investment if you decide to move towards that business. That being said, I hope that all these terms are a little bit more clear. And yeah, let's just move to the next slide, and over to you, Babar.
Thank you, Christina. So I think the key takeaway right here is that the senior assisted living is a hybrid. It's a combination of a nursing home and a retirement home, which is really the crossroads of, why one should look at investing in a senior assisted living, because it's the best of both, right? From a real estate perspective and from the demand of housing for seniors, we recognize that, with the growing population, baby boomers, specific to New Brunswick, the province that we're focused on, we know that this is a large chunk of the population, which is over 65, and it's a growing trend in the next 10 years. And this is not just specific to New Brunswick. We know that there's an increased demand for senior housing, and there's not enough levels of care catered to the type of seniors that are looking for certain types of hybrid models. So from that perspective, when we were working on our project here in St. John, New Brunswick, we immediately recognized that it's no longer just a demand. There is an existing wait list of seniors in and around the hospital that require long-term care, and they need to be in the vicinity of the hospital, but there's not enough housing. So, this goes beyond just the housing. Now we're involving, the community as a stakeholder, that, this is an investment that needs to be supported at all levels. So, when we learned how the lenders look at this opportunity, we were amazed at how they recognize this as a need-based business. And with very favorable terms, we're able to leverage the benefits of real estate through CMHC, MLI Select, which has a very generous ability for a cash out refinance and higher cash flow. But then also we have the benefit of getting a construction loan to implement the project that we're looking to establish. So from that perspective, there are two types of funding models. Just like in any sector, there's a public and a private. Public more often funded by the government. That is our model right now. So it is based on the assistance from the government, which is already in place with our partner, who is the senior assisted business. And essentially, you have a private model, which could be an option down the road. So lots of options to own and operate this type of asset. And I think the most important thing from an investment standpoint is hedging the risk, especially in real estate. There's risk to employment, GDP, jobs growth, any type of recession. Senior assisted living businesses are, in a short supply. So we know that, they are very resistant to recessions, and some of the key drivers why we were interested in investing in this market. So I think this is a good segue to get into the combo of why we look at real estate and the senior assisted living business. So Christina, I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, so on this slide here, the main question is why the combination of senior assisted care business with the multifamily real estate assets. And so to begin with, I would like to emphasize our belief that we put, on the slide here on the left side of the slide, in our vision that it's very dear to us when it comes to the future of our seniors. So let's just separate both businesses, and then we put here a few key points I would like to touch and develop shortly. And so getting on the first one, the location and accessibility. When we talk about location, we always think about real estate, piece. So we know how important is the location when it comes to the real estate investments. However, is it furthermore important when we touch the accessibility to the care when it comes to both businesses in one? Because by combining both, it's really, really important to have a hospital nearby, or a center, a care center close by. And this is only because at times with our seniors is really easy for the transportation. Also, let's talk about the different tenant class. Obviously, our tenant class in this type of business is the senior population. So as suppose on real estate, we have the young professional, students, general population, name it all. Obviously, in this type of business, we talk about the senior class, tenant class, which is completely a different tenant class from that we are used on real estate. On the third point here, I would like to touch the management properties and management companies, and then we just think that it has to be professionally managed, obviously because of our tenant class. So out of our experience in this field, I would say that the property management company should be chosen very carefully and should have the right skill set in order to manage a completely different type of clientele. We touch here like the huge support by the city. We want to put and emphasize in this point here how important it is to work with the city when it comes to the approvals aligned with your vision. So this point here highlights the relationship that you can create with the city or, of that specific location with the municipality when it comes to creating senior housing, given the needs that we have on the today's market. Also, Babar touched a little bit on the safe asset class. I would like to maybe consolidate a little bit more the idea. And this point here refers to having two businesses in one. Which basically comes to a double income, if you want to call it that way, or a cash cow, as very often we use the term, which means like you have the commercial tenant income collection at every month, but also you can have an additional income from the care side. On the other side of the slide, we have the senior assisted care business, which again, I would like to complete, Babar, the hedge risk, which we refer here to a low vacancy rate based on the waiting list Babar, mentioned a little bit earlier. Also think about the no landlord and tenant board issues and the low maintenance of the properties. If we compare student rentals with a senior assisted living property, I think when it comes to the budget, you have a lower maintenance budget used at the end of the year. Partnering up with other services. And then I think here we mentioned probably, home care by design. However, there are other services across Canada. It's not just home care by design. We use that partnership with the company in New Brunswick. But this option refers to partnering up with different other businesses in the care space, which can provide you extra income, extra cash flow for your real estate business. When it comes to the higher returns from additional income, here we just think about outside the box, and all these type of extra income added to the real estate component can be added. So think about extra parking. You can have a gym and physio on contract or charge by hour. It depends like how you want to set up your business. You can have a dining room and you charge for that. You can have a hair salon or a nail salon. So all these type of additional incomes will add to your mainstream income coming from the real estate asset, which will increase your cash flow monthly. And not last, I think the most important point for me personally will be the positive income that our senior community can benefit from this type of deal, this type of project. Basically, you can combine both together. So that being said, I think I'm going to move to Babar again.
Okay. Thank you, Christina. I think we'll take a pause over here and just pivot now towards zoom into really the hands-on experience that we have collected over the last couple of months on the project that we're working on. We've shared this openly on how this is an opportunity at various levels. So from that perspective, I'd like Mike to introduce us to the opportunity and what do we plan to do with it.
Thank you, Babar and Christina, for that. So the opportunity is 25 one-bedroom units, 500 square feet per unit, full bathroom, full kitchen in St. John, New Brunswick, right across from St. Joseph's Hospital, which is basically a stone throw away. Now, the project is in collaboration with a number of strategic partners. So we have the church, who is actually selling the building. They've owned that since 1985. Prior to that, it was Canadian Red Cross. The area was once a large hospital. In addition to St. Joseph's, they tore down about 25 years ago. There's also social development, which is the government department that handles the seniors, the senior care. And we also have home care by design, which we've discussed. They are a home care company. Today, they have about 80 PSWs, and they send their PSWs to various homes across the St. John region to take care of seniors in their home. But ultimately, what we're trying to do is we all share the same vision. We want to make this care more efficient. Now, sending people across the city, you're spending time traveling. We were looking at what happens if we bring everyone into one building and we provide that care on demand. I think we can make just basically more effective both social development and more profitable for us. So, as you know, there's massive demand for senior housing, and that's a significant opportunity for multifamily investors. Now, we are targeting the 75 plus demographic on this one. They're going to need help with daily living activities like bathing, meal preparation, social time, some activities, taking them to the doctor's office and whatnot. That's really where our niche market is. In St. John alone, we have 150 seniors stuck in the hospital who actually are medically discharged, but they have nowhere to go. So they can go home, but there's no one to really take care of them. Or if they did require home care can't be with them for the amount of hours they need. So this is kind of where we fit. We're not treatment. We're not a nursing home. We're pretty much close. Basically, we span that gap between independent living and the nursing home. So we're just below that. That's the market we're going for. Now, in terms of, let's see here, what else do I want to tell you about? So what we're going to do to the building, we are going to completely gut it. We're going to change out the electrical, the mechanical, the heating source right now is natural gas, change the windows. We're going to make it as efficient energy-wise as we possibly can. And I'll talk more about that because that relates to grants, but also just operating costs. There's also an elevator in this building. It's a 4-story plus a basement. It's 18,000 square feet. Each unit will be accessible. We'll have a few barrier-free. Now let's see. So we talked about the components. There's the 25-bedroom real estate component. We talked about the home care side, and we actually get a bit of a kickback on that for cash flow. So that's kind of what our 2 streams of revenue are, and there's 30 parking spots. So lastly, we've partnered with one of the largest NB construction companies, Flood & Sons. They've been around for 100 years. We're in good shape on the construction side of things. We've been working with the city in the background. We've got all the electrical, mechanical, civil, structural drawings, complete construction drawings. We've submitted them to the city. Building permits are ready. Once construction is complete, the senior assisted care will begin. So we're receiving income for rent as well as the care side. And the last thing that I mentioned earlier was grants. So we have 3 grants that we have at our disposal. First one being NB housing. I'm going to throw a few numbers at you. $350,000 for making 5 of the units affordable. We also have the NB power rebate. That's about 150 grand, and that's basically on energy efficiency. And then we have the city grants, which would be up to 172,000. So that's all I have. Babar or Faizan, I'll let you guys take it from here.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate that. I know you said a lot of things. There's obviously a lot of moving pieces. If somebody's interested to know more, we'll definitely book a call, and Mike can really explain really what the plan is. But I think one of the things that we want to highlight here is why this opportunity is something that we really love. So Faizan, he'll take it away.
Yeah, absolutely. So far, guys, we've been talking about the senior care side of things, right? So that's primarily what the topic of the webinar was, to give everybody an understanding, because just like everybody else, we didn't have much of an understanding of senior care, assisted living, the 3 different types that Christina mentioned. We weren't really aware of that. We're real estate investors. We just know, we get a building, we put tenants in there, and we get a return out of it. So there's multiple reasons why this opportunity really attracted us, right? Number one, it's the fact that it's a cash out refinance within 12 months. So one of the things that we found with this opportunity was that unlike a lot of other places where every part of a development, so you have different parts of the city, you have the contractors, you have the lenders, etc. Everybody wants their own piece of the pie, which is always going to be the case, but almost everybody is working against you, and it's almost a force of resistance in any real estate project, especially what we complain about with Ontario is all the red tape. It's hard to get any kind of real developments done in Ontario, right? But what we found with this project was there's so much support for something like this because the province knows they have an issue with the lack of senior care right now in New Brunswick. So we had a lot of push from them to go through with this project. We had a lot of good feedback from lenders, a lot of good push from them to keep going with this project. And from all sides, we've seen a positive, motivation to continue with this project or to take it on. So with that being said, majority of the things are in place, or they're at a point where they're being pushed forward because of the type of project that it is. It's not a typical real estate project. That means that because we have almost everything in place, our project will, from the day of closing, from start to finish, including a CMHC refinance, is set to kind of take place within a 12-month period. That means we're set to start construction, tear down the whole building inside, build the 25 units, go through the whole, city permits and everything already approved. So the whole process will be completed within a 12-month period, which, if you've done any kind of multifamily project before, that's a very quick turnaround time. So that was one of the biggest things that attracted us. Number two, we all love, if you come from a real estate background, we all love our BRRRR projects, or what you would consider a flip to own or a renovate and refinance. What this means is essentially is the money we put into the project is the money we pull out at refinance. And that's kind of the plan with this project. That's where we're looking at right now, where, yes, the amount of money we are putting in, we're looking at getting a loan to cost loan at the end of our project, which will essentially help us pull out all the money we've put into the project, making it essentially a perfect BRRRR project. Mike touched on it beautifully. There are a ton of grants being offered for this project. Again, that's one of the things. I know there was a question about New Brunswick. That was one of the biggest things that attracted us. If you try to take on projects like this, around different provinces, while we don't have the information on every province, we know with regards to real estate itself, grants are very far and few in between and very hard to come by. So having the availability of over $500,000 in grants really pushes us to proceed with this project, and it really elevates the financial status of the project. So I'll move on to the next slide. The other thing, so again, if you've been in real estate for a bit, if you're in the multifamily game, you know that most of the time when you go to analyze any kind of deal, or you're looking at any multifamily building, most of the time it's either very low cash flow, especially if you're in high appreciation markets like Ontario, and especially with the high interest rates right now, there's not a whole lot of cash on cash returns. So that's one place where we love this opportunity. Not only are you getting the cash from the rent that you're going to be, obviously, you're going to be renting out your units to the seniors, which is the same as any real estate investment. Typically in multifamily, we'll have other things like, laundry and parking and whatever else that generates a very small amount of revenue, but not a substantial amount. So one thing we love with this is the senior care facility, the partner that we're partnering up with, they're coming in and they're actually providing us a percentage of their profits as well to come and use our building to run their operations, because obviously they will be generating income from the seniors themselves. So that gives us a significant portion to add into our already the rent we'll already be collecting. So that pushes our cash on cash up by quite a bit already. Besides that, like Christina mentioned, we want to try and convert this building into a place where we can have as many facilities as possible within the closest proximity. So like we mentioned, we have the hospital right next to us already, but then we wanted to put a hair and nail salon as well, so that the seniors will have an easier time for their self-care. That itself will be a commercial tenant that will be paying us a commercial rent every month. Besides that, we will have a gym, which the seniors will be paying additionally for. And on top of that, like Christina mentioned, we are looking at getting physiotherapy services in there as well, and taking an income from that side as well. Lastly, like Mike mentioned, we have about 30 parking spots. We already have contract for a few of them to rent them out for about $120 a month. And that's a very good amount for parking. So that's one thing. And then it being right next to the hospital, we know that we're going to have a big demand from the hospital as well to rent our parking spaces. So all of this adds together, when you compare typical multifamily where you have these small chunks of change that are added onto your rent as income, as quote unquote income, it does not compare to the kind of income we're talking about with this type of project, because it's much larger amounts coming from each of these extra services we're providing. Lastly, the fast track stabilization. So like I mentioned earlier, the project itself, it's a 12-month turnaround. And because there's such a big waiting list, the minute we get the project ready for occupancy, we have residents to start renting from essentially the next day. So it will not take us a very long time to stabilize this building. We don't have to go through a massive tenant screening process like you typically would. We don't have to really go look for the tenants and, you know, place ads on the MLS or wherever else. There's a large pool of tenants just waiting to enter the building. So this building will be stabilized fairly quickly after we are done with the actual development process. And if we want to go to the next picture. So the other reason why we are so passionate about this is because right after we finish that project, we own this 3.2 acres of land very close to that building. And that means that this 25-unit building that we're developing right now is kind of a test run or a pilot for this next development that we will be looking into, which is over 100 units for assisted care living. And that will be, you know, again, as long as everything goes great with this one, that will be a huge development and a huge and very profitable undertaking for us in the future. Babar, I'll hand it back to you.
Thanks, Faizan. I think by this time it's probably pretty clear to you that what drew us to this project, and you know, let's bring it all together. You know, we're coming to an end of our presentation, and we'll open up the floor. So where are we at right now, right? And what has happened in terms of progress so far? So, you know, our appraisals are in place, both as is and as complete. So we know that we're buying right. We know that we have built in equity. We know what our exit looks like as well. And then most importantly, you know, getting our financing and getting our lenders in place. So, you know, that was a huge bonus while we were completing our due diligence. I think Faizan touched on this about the fast track stabilization. You know, there's a couple of reasons for that. And one of the main ones is obviously the building is vacant, but more importantly, we have city permits already approved, ready to go, which is how the contractor has given us a firm and fixed quote with a firm and fixed schedule. So, you know, it was very important for us to get that approval from the city in place. But also get our contractor ready to go, because this is not a job for a small private mom and pop contractor. We need to hedge our risk when it comes to labor, schedule, and cost overruns. So, you know, from that perspective, we needed peace of mind by partnering with, you know, one of the largest contractor that essentially is ready to go as soon as we close. We talked a lot about the grants, which really are a huge enabler. So what happens is once we close on this property, we get access to a lot of these grants. So there's a huge incentive for us to keep the ball rolling and close, and then proceed with construction. And then finally, you know, with CMHC and the timelines that they're taking, you know, we'll be way ahead in the schedule. We'll have a full 12 months to put in our application and make sure that we are, you know, exiting per plan. So with that, you know, I think we'll pause and open it up to Q&A. You know, raise your hand. We'll unmute you or unmute yourself or post in the chat. But you know, in a nutshell, if there's any further conversations that you'd like to have about this sector in general, about this webinar or the opportunity, this is how to get a hold of us. We have our email addresses right here. So please take a snapshot of this, and you know, please feel free to reach out.
So I think there's a few questions in the chat. We can start with those. So Nepal asked why focus in New Brunswick and not other provinces. So I think Nepal, we touched a little bit on that. With regards to the actual province itself, it was an opportunity that was brought to us, and we started looking into it, and that's what kind of got us started in that space. So it wasn't that we specifically chose New Brunswick. We found the opportunity, and the opportunity was there. Now, that's not to say that this wouldn't work in other provinces. I'm sure it would. Our focus has been in New Brunswick, and that's where we've kind of started. I'm sure once we get it going in New Brunswick, we would probably look at other provinces as well. Victoria, do you plan to provide 24/7 medical care / support like medication, etc.? Do you plan to provide the meals as part of the package or as an optional or as an option on top of rental component? So that's a fantastic question. So one thing that I'm going to mention is we're in the business of real estate, not of senior care. So like we mentioned, there are many senior care providers out there that you can partner with that will come in and provide their services within your building. And that's essentially what we're doing. So we're only essentially providing the real estate for the partner to come in and provide the services. Now, with regards to medical care and meal plans and all, that's something that, again, it's not something that we ourselves will be taking care of. It's more so on the actual senior care side that they will be looking into and they will be providing.
I think maybe Mike, you could add to that in terms of what are some of the services that you know of are going to be on the table.
There will be it will be supported by an RN and LPN, but it will be mostly PSWs. 24/7 care will be an option at a reduced capacity. We're looking at roughly one PSW for every 4 to 6 seniors. In terms of meals, the PSWs will be cooking the meals. Right now, we do have the tenants paying for their own groceries and rent. That's also running into Arlene's. Will the rent payments be subsidized by the government? 5 units will be subsidized. The 20 will not be. That was part of the grant deal. But in terms of medical care and support like medication, that's not something I comment on. I would leave that to Judy, who's not on here, but that's really her expertise.
Okay, next question. Will the rental payments be subsidized by the government? Mike, do you want to touch up on this one?
Yeah, so 5 units will be subsidized by the government out of the 25.
Okay, perfect. And I do see we have some questions. I think Denise was first. Denise, do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, just on that rent one. Hi, thank you for the information. This is something kind of has been in the back of my mind forever. So this is amazing, and I love what you guys are doing. Just my question was around the following up with the rentals. So do you charge market rent, or are you charging below, like a little less? Like where do you go there? Because then they're paying for these other services.
5 are below market rent, basically subsidized.
Because they're subsidized, but the ones that are not?
20 will be market rent.
And so, okay, so it's market rent, and then they pay for these additional services over and above that.
Correct. Now, most of them will fall under the guidance of social development, will basically pay for their care up to a certain amount, and that will be based on income.
Okay.
That's basically how it's laid out.
Okay.
Now, could we have some private care? Yes, we could have some private care. Whereas the tenant also pays for the care. And that really comes down to income qualification.
Okay, makes sense. That's great. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Nepal, you've had your hands up. Do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, sure. Good presentation, guys. Thank you so much. Babar, good to see you, my friend. I love what you guys are doing. I know the slide up here to how to get involved, but I was wondering if you guys can share a little more and tell us what the ask is, how does, a little more how we get involved, before I contact you guys. Yeah, thank you.
So thank you for that question. I think our answer to that will be just contact us. Just because there's information, first off, we'd like to have a personal conversation with you and just kind of see how we can figure that out with yourself. And then besides that, with any information to do with the actual project, we'd rather be discussing that on a one-on-one level.
Just book a call to say hi. It's been a while.
Okay.
I think Denise has her hand up.
Yeah, I think so. Denise, go ahead.
I remembered my other quick question. So you're building from scratch, so it's going to be an entire building that way. But if you have a building already full of people, and if a majority of them are elderly, is this working with the service provider that you have coming in to provide these things? Like, are they looking for an entire building? Can you do it with parts of building? Are there, like, what are their types of requirements to work with you?
I think that's a great question for Mike. It's actually a great question for Judy, who's the other partner, but Mike.
Yeah. I mean, I can. Currently, she provides home care services. She has her PSWs going into different homes, and not to say that she couldn't go into have her PSWs go into an apartment and provide care. Don't see why that would be a problem. Social development wanted us to have certain standards to this building: 2-hour fire rating, accessibility, stairs a certain width. They wanted to make it more of what we call a Group B Division 3 care facility versus your standard Group C apartment building. Not sure if that answers I'm getting technical, but
no, that does. And I assume there would be specific requirements like that, but yeah, I guess you're saying it's possible, but
it's possible, definitely.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we have some buildings that actually came with, that kind of market of tenants. And so we're kind of thinking about maybe we transition to have them fully for that market and see how we can support them. And then this came along with just fantastic learning. Thank you.
Welcome.
Beautiful. Any other questions?
If you're too shy to ask a question, that is also okay. It's just common for us to just feel free to send us a DM, book us a call. You know how to get a hold of us. We'd love to keep this conversation going. And hopefully our plan is to share updates as we progress and embark on this journey. So, I'm sure this is not the last time we'll be presenting. Last call for any questions. We're happy to stay longer as needed.
Hey, Trevor, go ahead.
Hey guys, sorry I joined your call a little bit late there, putting kids to bed. You might have already discussed this, but how long do you guys stay on as the real estate investors once it's stabilized and is being managed by the service provider?
That's a phenomenal question. Thank you for that. So with regards to the actual real estate part, we will technically be managing, if you have any kind of real estate asset, you would be hiring on property managers, right? And then you hire the or manage the property managers themselves. And you still, technically, let's say a boiler goes out or whatever, or certain repairs need to be made or tenant issues, whatever, you still technically deal with them. The property manager deals with them, but you're kind of behind that, right? So with regards to this, majority of those issues fall into the hands of the care provider. Majority of everything. So we don't need a property management company to come in and do anything here. Majority of that will fall into the hands of the care provider. Now, with that being said, if there are issues to do with the building, that's where we are still involved. So as far as tenants, everything is on the care side. If there's, I don't know, plumbing leaks somewhere or some issues with the HVAC or this or that, whatever, that's where we're still involved in the process. Does that help?
Yeah, so you guys aren't as the real estate investor, you're not placing the tenants. It's the client that's running the businesses.
Yeah, so I believe so. They will be bringing them in. I'm sure they have their
Yeah.
contracts with people, and they will
Yeah.
be bringing them in, yes.
Okay. So I know it was said that the 5 are subsidized and the rest are market rents. Is that market rent for the size of the unit for St. John, or is it market rent for this type of establishment, as in a long-term care facility?
So again, great question. So with regards to that, we will be doing market rents for St. John. As far as we know, market rents for this type of facility are actually higher. But we're not going to be doing that process yet. We're just going to be doing market rents for St. John.
Okay, sounds good.
I think just something to add there is that the way we're approaching this is really looking at a very conservative projection of what our potential rent and our income looks like. All the services combined, looking at it very conservatively. So, what that does is it allows us to have a lot of upside, as we progress, as we stabilize, as we get full occupancy. Because I'm sure there's a ton of opportunity for us to, capitalize on the demand for whether it's rent and or the services. Because there could be new services that we may learn of as we progress, and we'll introduce those.
And just to touch on that, the other kind of benefit to doing New Brunswick again is the landlord tenant board, or just the rules around landlords and tenants. It is friendly enough that we do have that flexibility in the future to kind of change structures a little bit. So that's why we're kind of okay with starting out with a bit of a conservative approach, and then moving up to kind of see what else we can do with the real estate side of things. Thank you for the question. I hope that helped.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. No, I mean, my mother's in a long-term care home in Fredericton, so I kind of understand the industry a bit, and I own multis in New Brunswick too. So, yeah, it sounds like an awesome project.
Yep, absolutely. Anybody else? Any other questions? Do you want to give it another 30 seconds?
And obviously we're gonna make an effort to send you this webinar as well as a recording if it actually went through. If it did not, we'll record one especially for you guys, and we'll send it out. So really appreciate everybody's time and interest. And again, apologies for the delayed start, and I appreciate you accommodating us.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. And yeah, feel free to reach out if you have questions.